Thank you for being here, Annika. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thanks for having me, Flavia.
Great. So let's start with the very first question, which is a question that aims at getting to know your story a little bit better. Everyone in Brussels has a story, so I'd be very interested to hear what's your story and how did you find your way into this world?
So, first of all, my impression is that everyone has a quite similar story in Brussels. It usually goes, I came as a stagiaire, got a job offer, stayed, and then the people are here for at least 2 decades or 3 decades, everyone you meet. It's quite impressive. So my story is not love at first sight. I came here 20 years ago, was a stagiaire in Parliament and then also in the Commission. Super fascinating. I also got a job offer, but I decided to leave and spent a good 20 years outside Brussels, but always working on EU policy. And then the offer came to come to Brussels, and I had that very simple opinion of a rainy Brussels, traffic jam, I don't know, busy people, unfriendly taxi drivers. And so I wasn't really keen to come here, but I said, okay, the job is interesting, let's give it a try. I think it took not even a week for the whole family to be completely convinced that this is a great place to be. So we just fell in love with the people, the city, its forests, its restaurants, its culture. So very quickly we decided to stay.
Amazing. That's great. And now let's get a little bit into the bubble. Imagine explaining your day-to-day job to somebody who does not belong in the bubble. What would be the thing that surprises them the most?
So my day-to-day has been looking very differently according to what sector I was in. As a corporate lobbyist, I had a lot of coordination meetings with other lobbyists and especially from our direct competitors. And I think that's something that would surprise anyone at headquarters. And also if you work in the capitals, you don't expect to work as much with your competitors and other industry stakeholders just because Brussels is so complex and you have to read it together. You have to try to interpret things, try to preempt the next steps, and also try to cover all the different aspects of EU policy because there's just so much happening and nobody can do it alone. So that way of working together really surprised me in a very positive way, and it was fun also creating alliances around causes. Now, as a think tanker, I guess my day-to-day looks quite different. It's actually more in competition again with other organizations. And I'm not just saying think tanks, but also trade organizations, the many event organizations, you name it. There are so many people competing for attention here in Brussels. So as a think tank, it's a hard competition for time and resources and talent. Constantly, I guess. So,
and moving on to a bit of your personal story and experience, I've been curious to know what is a decision that you made earlier in your career that might have felt a bit risky at the time, you were not too sure, but then turned out to be an excellent decision for your path.
So my first job was as an advisor in Parliament, which was a lot of fun and a great honor, honestly, to work this close on policy. It was already energy and climate policy. And I then saw a job offer and went to work with a grid operator. At the time, nobody cared about this industry. I mean, everybody talked energy and we discussed all the different aspects of it and with all different stakeholders, but nobody thought about the grid operators. So it was a little bit risky to go into an unknown industry from a job that was clear and had a clear, like very good visibility. But it turned out to be a very good decision. One, because grids were very much the bottleneck of the energy transition, and that was understood very soon. And they were also put into the spotlight with the nuclear exit in Germany. So very soon I had lots to do. But secondly, it was important on a personal level because it made me specialize. It made me choose a sector. I think it's very good when you choose a sector because it gives you, in the end, more options as if you position yourself as a generalist. I'm not saying like going into the very last rabbit hole of I mean, there are people who love doing that, and I respect them a great deal, but I think it's always good when you choose a sector for yourself and then you can grow there. You will see a lot more opportunities for that, and also to grow maybe in adjacent fields or so. So for me, it proved really valuable.
Okay, great. Very interesting. And then evolving on this dimension, do you feel that there has been a mistake or a faux pas that you made earlier in your Brussels career that taught you a lot, or something that you still carry with you today?
So a mistake in Brussels is probably when you order fries with ketchup.
Why so? Tell me about it.
No, because you have 15 sauces, and then, you know, the people in front of you at the counter, they usually look at you like you just, I don't know. It's just not okay. You can take any option or mayonnaise, but not ketchup. No, but seriously, work-wise, I think in Brussels, I took access for granted. I thought that if I had a contact in a certain job, it would remain a very valuable contact in the next job. And that was not at all true, because depending on the point where you stand here in Brussels, you are treated differently. So when I moved into industry, access to the Commission became much more complicated. And it is for a reason. I understand that very well, because there's a lot of scrutiny about who you talk to, who you write to. People have to publish their written correspondence with any lobbyists. They have to publish any meeting. So it becomes a lot more difficult to have individual access. And you have to organize yourself differently as a lobbyist compared to I worked before for an international organization and had amazing access. So I guess, you know, that would have been something I had to learn.
That's interesting. Moving on to a section about your own opinions. What's the hill that you're willing to die on in your sector, even if everybody around you disagrees?
The hill I'm willing to die on. I have to think about something I did when I was still in parliament, like very early on in my career, but it's still relevant today. You know, we were all discussing renewables, how to bring their percentage up in the energy mix, and we were all discussing the amount of subsidies and how we had to organize these subsidies in the best way. And I very early on became the market proponent, because I said renewables need to have a capability to survive at the market. And at the time, that wasn't at all a popular opinion. So I guess I didn't make a lot of friends. But over time, I would say it was right, because, I mean, in the end, the energy transition needs to be cost efficient. It needs to be it needs to be affordable in order to be publicly acceptable. So I remain convinced about that. I also remain convinced that we cannot plan everything. The public sector cannot know everything. We cannot subsidize here, incentivize there, and take for granted that everything will come together wonderfully. I think the market plays a very, very important role in setting the right signals for investments, setting the right signals also for solutions that are not viable over time. So I guess it's the market.
And what is the biggest challenge that you see in the horizon for your sector specifically?
Well, remaining with that topic, it would be affordability and the cost. We've heard and we've read in the Draghi report, I mean, there are about 500 to 800 billion of euros that have to be invested in grid infrastructure and alone. And there is wider investments that the energy sector is facing. And these investments are hard to organize. I mean, first of all, for the public sector, but also the private sector has to get the capital in the markets. We are confronted with supply chains that are increasingly disrupted, under strain, costly. So we will have to organize, and we have to better coordinate the energy transition if we want to really achieve our objectives. And 2030 and 2040 really is around the corner, so.
Absolutely. Good luck with that.
Yes.
And is there anybody in your field whom you deeply respect, even if you might disagree with them?
I respect many people a lot, but if I might disagree with them, I would say climate activists. I mean, I don't respect people who glue themselves to the floor and block other people, but I deeply, for sure, deeply respect their passion and that they keep this curiosity and passion for a cause. I hope we can all preserve some of that throughout our careers, especially in Brussels.
That's a good one. Thank you. And well, finally, perhaps my favorite question. If your Brussels journey story had a soundtrack, which song would be on it and why?
Ooh. I guess it would be FOMO from Lord Esperanza.
How come?
Because the fear of missing out is so predominant in Brussels day to day. I mean, all the events and all the things that are happening, all the dossiers that you should be aware of, and it's a lot of fear of missing out. And it's a good and a negative motivator, I guess, for people here.
Thank you so much, Annika. It was a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, thank you very much. This was fun.